You may not remember Kevin Kolb if you aren't an Eagles or Cardinals fan, but his bank certainly does. He is one of the greatest of all time when it comes to bag getters. And it all started after his accomplished college campaign ended for the Houston Cougars, and he was drafted in the early second round of the 2007 NFL Draft by the Philadelphia Eagles with the 36th pick. At the time, there are no set rookie contracts. So he signs a 4-year, $4.2 million contract with Philadelphia. It includes a small signing bonus of $300,000 he collected, and that year he is third on the depth chart, played in one game where he was sacked twice for 13 yards. No other stats are recorded, and in total, that year he earned $938,000. Not bad for a year on the bench. The next year, Kevin sees some sporadic action during the early part of the year, but comes in for some serious time in the second half of Week 12 against the Ravens after Andy Reid benches starter Donovan McNabb due in part to a span of 6 interceptions and a fumble over the last game and a half. Kolb uses the opportunity to throw an interception in the end zone to Ed Reed, who returns it for a record 108 yards for a touchdown, even evading Kevin Kolb in the process. That's the only game of the year Kolb plays any meaningful football, but he goes without being sacked. At the end of the season, Mr. Kolb clears another $1.6 million.
2009 is where it gets interesting.
This year, Kolb is still second on the depth chart, 3 years after being drafted, and the Eagles signed Madden legend Michael Vick to the third place spot. Things shake up in only the third quarter of Week 1 when McNabb breaks a rib on a touchdown run. Kolb finished the blowout win, but did not record a touchdown or interception and was sacked twice. Kevin starts the next 2 games, throwing for 718 yards in this span, along with 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He is named Week 3 NFC Offensive Player of the Week, but McNabb comes back to his starting job for the rest of the year. 2010 is when Kevin Kolb started making big money. McNabb is traded to the Redskins, Andy Reid names Kolb the starter, and the Eagles sign a 1-year contract extension with him for $12.25 million that goes through the 2011 season. It is officially the Kevin Kolb era in Philadelphia. That is, until he suffers a concussion during Week 1 of the season and a loss to the Packers. Then we enter the Michael Vick era. Vick leads the team to victories over the Lions and Jaguars until he himself misses some playing time with a rib injury. Now it's back to Kolbing time. Over the next 4 weeks, Kolb goes 2 for 2 with a QB rating of 76, 103.3, 133.6, and 56.9. Guess which games the Eagles won? These games highlight how high the ceiling is for Kolb and how low the floor can be. But nevertheless, Vick comes back from injury and he has his own magical season with the Eagles while Kolb remains on the sideline. Now it's 2011, and with Michael Vick earning the starting spot and his own 6-year, $100 million contract, the Eagles trade Kevin Kolb to the Cardinals, who immediately ink a 5-year contract worth $63.5 million. At this point, Kolb has only played 7 games in his career and has a 3-4 record. In his first year with the Cardinals, he had a great Week 1 win over the Panthers with 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. But it's all downhill from there. It's his last game without an interception till Week 9 when he doesn't make the start because of a toe injury. However, he fired back in Week 13, returning to beat the Cowboys with 247 yards and a game-winning screen touchdown pass to LaRod Stevens-Howling. Then his season immediately ends on the first possession of the next week with a concussion that sidelines him for the rest of the year. 2010 and 2011 are his peak earning years, earning $11.4 million and $12 million in each respective season. In this $23 million span, Kevin Kolb starts 14 games with a 5-9 record, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and 2 devastating concussions. 2012 still brings in the money for Kolb. He makes $8.5 million, but does not even win the starting spot over John Skelton. But Kevin is out there Week 1, taking the field when Skelton sprains his ankle in the 4th quarter against the Seahawks. This time though, Kolb shows the Cardinals why they paid him so much money and leads a come-from-behind victory. Then they beat the New England Patriots the next week, followed by the Eagles, and then they squeak by the Dolphins despite the fact that Kolb is sacked 8 times in that game. The Cardinals enter Week 5 with a 4-0 record and have outscored their opponents 91-61. Then they promptly lose to the Rams 17-3, with Kolb taking 9 sacks, and the brutality does not end for him anytime soon. The very next week, Kevin Kolb suffers a rib injury in the fourth quarter, so Week 1 starter John Skelton comes back in, throws a game-costing interception in overtime, and over the next 7 weeks while Kevin Kolb is inactive, the Cardinals do not win a single game.
He is then placed on injured reserve,
And we are on to 2013. The Cardinals released Kolb after attempting to restructure his contract, and the appropriately named Bills pick up our guy for 2 years and $13 million, where he could potentially compete for the starting spot. However, he does not make it out of the preseason before suffering his 3rd concussion, and after the initial adrenaline wears off, he knows it's time to hang it up. He was placed on injured reserve for the rest of the year and retired in 2014. When it's all said and done, Kevin Kolb earned $37.6 million to start 21 games and go 9-12 with a passer rating of 78.9. In that span, Kevin Kolb was obliterated 77 times for a sack, and that is the main culprit for a short and mediocre career. Kevin Kolb showed flashes of greatness, and even when he was not getting officially sacked, he would take some big hits trying to sling it at the very last moment. Even after leaving the game, Kevin Kolb suffered from concussion symptoms. But in my opinion, if you have to live with that, you may as well make $37 million in the process.